We already have calls. Do you want to go ahead and
Yeah,
jump in?
let's go ahead and go.
Sweet. Our first caller is from Illinois, and they have a ghost in their house. Nixie, you're on with Ethan and Jim. How are you?
I'm doing pretty great. How are you guys?
I'm
Doing
doing
good.
good. So your house is haunted. Is that right?
Yes, it is indeed.
Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. He seems to be friendly. Kind of passive aggressive a little bit. For the most part, everything is left alone unless I have too much stuff on my kitchen table. If I leave it too cluttered, he will push stuff across it. I've seen it move across my table. And I refer to him as a he because my daughter actually came up to me and said that she wanted to talk about her ghost friend, Ryan. So I'm assuming that it's him, hoping that that's who she's talking about.
Well, that's a little freaky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've seen, when you say, he pushes things around the table, what kind of describe to me what happens and how often it happens?
It's kind of like if a cat is about to push something off of a table, how it just kind of scoots it. It's kind of what it looks like. If I keep my table clean, it doesn't happen too often. It seems to be pretty centralized to the table too. I can leave my desk super messy and nothing happens. But on that table specifically, he doesn't like stuff.
What kind of items do you see moving across the table?
Random things. Like it's different each time, usually cylindrical, I guess, though. Like cans or sometimes my candles, if I have too many candles on the table.
So do the candles roll and the cans roll, or are the cans scooting across on their normal bottom? And how are the candles scooting across?
They both scoot around on the bottom like normal.
Okay.
Have
And go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Jim.
What have you done to eliminate any other possible cause?
I mean, I saw it happen. So.
Well, people see
people
go to Las Vegas and watch magic all the time. Doesn't mean magic is happening, right? So, yeah, you saw something move, but what was the cause?
I mean, there's no airflow in the room that's strong enough to move anything. Not, candles or cans, whether they be empty or partially full.
Do you know if it's...
and it
sorry.
happens when I'm alone. Sorry.
No, I cut you off. I apologize. Please continue.
It happens usually when I'm alone in the house. Like nobody else has seen the stuff scoot across. And it doesn't happen when my dogs are running around or anything like that. Like it's usually when it's quiet.
Is it possible that your table could be leaning to one side? Like, have you ever possibly paid attention to see if maybe they only move one direction when it's happening?
I have, and I did put a pen on the table in different spots to see, because part of my floors are a little bit weird. But everything seems to be pretty level. And it goes back and forth. It's not a set pattern.
Okay. And nobody else has been able to see this?
Nobody that's told me, anyway.
And how long has this been going on for?
I've lived here for a little over a year. My boyfriend has been here for about 7 years, I think, and he's had other little experiences throughout the house, not involving the table. And the family that owned the house before he bought it, he knew them growing up, and it was around when he was 15, I think, that some weird stuff started happening.
Does your boyfriend also believe it's a like ghost?
Yes, he does.
Would you be willing to set up next time you're home alone? Would you be willing, I don't know if you have like a spare tablet or spare phone, and set something up to record this so we can see if we can get it on camera?
I can try to.
Because that would be cool. I would love to see this happening.
Yeah, I mean that would be,
Um,
because there are some visual hallucinations of where people think things are moving and they aren't, just because of the way it comes into your line of vision and things like that. That's why I asked, what have you done to eliminate more mundane possibilities? And of course, even when you eliminate those, you can't go to the supernatural without first proving it's supernatural, right? That's what in philosophy we call an argument from ignorance, which simply means that I can't think of anything else, so it must be this. And that's never a good argument to make. But to sit down and say, yeah, there's no error, that the table isn't rocking or moving in any way, that the table is dry, that the surface isn't slick in some way. There's not like a light coating of oil or finger oil or anything along those lines. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities to eliminate, and even then, you're just left with, well, I can't think of anything else. But there still could be other, perfectly mundane reasons. So the important thing is to start eliminating them, and seeing what they actually are. The fact that it's only happening when it's you might be somewhat significant in terms of air currents, vibrations on the floor, things like that.
Are you open to the possibility that there could be a naturalistic explanation instead of a supernatural explanation?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, well, that's a good answer.
I'm open to the realm of all possibilities in pretty much every instance. I'm very into science. Like I like facts. But I also, it's stuff that I haven't been able to prove it's not supernatural yet.
Right.
And are there, aside from the things moving on the table, are there any other things happening in your home?
Yes, on occasion, trying to think of how to describe the layout. On occasion, you can kind of see someone walking down the hallway if you're sitting on the couch in the living room, where like you can see the shadow move. Not quite like, it looks like the shadow of a person, but you can't see the person. It's happened when my boyfriend has been here. Like he and I have both seen it. One of our dogs freaks out every time it happens. The other two don't seem bothered, but one of them, he kind of spazzes out. He starts howling.
I've seen that actually happen before. So I personally, like, I don't believe in ghosts anymore. But one of my ghost stories was this is many, many years ago, and I was at my girlfriend at the time's house. And the dog, and I never figured out what it was, but the dog refused to go upstairs to the top like attic. And if you tried to bring the dog up there, it would start howling and freaking out. And that to me at the time was like, holy shit, there must be some type of ghost up here, especially because this fantastic story came with it that this girl was allegedly murdered in the home. So I was heavily convinced. And to this day, I don't have an explanation for what happened. And I'd be curious if anyone out there knows like what other possibilities can cause a dog to act like that and get deterred from a certain area so easily. Uh, Jim, any thoughts on that?
Well, dogs are sensitive to smell, so it could just be something he was smelling something he didn't like up there.
Well,
It's hard to say. Um, I was watching a dog the other day trying to go up one of the gangways at the marina and absolutely refusing to go up. And neither the owner nor I could figure out. There was nothing there. Was it supernatural? Was it just a dog deciding, I don't feel like walking up this steep ramp today? And the owner went to pick him up and he cried a little bit, but he's, once he got up the ramp, he was okay. It's hard to say with an animal because we just don't have any way to interrogate the animal and find out what they're actually seeing.
Right.
And, a dog does have a sense of smell that we don't have. Don't remember off the top of my head if their eyesight is as good as ours. And their hearing as well.
I believe it's better.
Yeah. Well, I know it's not color. It's not black and white like we think it is, but it's not full color either.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I'd have to go and do some research on that. Don't think it, but yeah, and they're hearing also. So there may be something that you can't hear. It's outside human hearing ranges that's happening. So
is that beeping on your end, Jim, or is that?
Yeah, that's on my end. I don't know why it's doing that because all of my sound is routed through my headset except for that.
Oh, I think it's the Facebook. Anytime we send a message in there, the Facebook Messenger pops up.
Let me tell it to shut up, be quiet.
In the meantime, if you have a paranormal or supernatural experience, conspiracy theory you want to talk about, give us a call. The number's at the bottom of the screen, 951-364-2430. And if you're not a patron or you're unable to become one, please share this video, get it out there, so more people hear about it and will call us with their experiences. If we were able to come up with a few, what can I say, tests, I wouldn't be able to come up with them now, but if off the air I can come up with some tests and send them to you, would you be, when you have free time, of course, would you be open to trying some of these so we could investigate and possibly eliminate any other possibilities?
Sure.
Sweet. I love hearing that. Jim, did you have any other questions?
No. I would, if it's bothering you, I would sit down and try and figure out exactly what it could be. I think it'd be an interesting puzzle to solve, to kind of figure out what actually is going on, with the cans and the other stuff, and try and actually see if you can recreate it. Right. If it's only when you're there alone, it could be, if it's an older house, it could be something as simple as you're creating a vibration in the floor somehow, and things move. Is it moving with sound? Because most cans, when you scoot them across, unless it's a really slick surface, make noise. It just lots of things to think about before I would jump to the supernatural as a possibility.
They do actually make noise when they scoot. That's how I noticed it the first time, because I could hear something moving and I turned to see what it was.
Yeah, so it's got some possibilities for being something other than supernatural.
Well, what I will do, Nixie, after the show, I'm going to get with one of my colleagues. If he's watching right now, Puck, I know you can come up with some test scenarios if you could assist with this, and I'll reach back out to you if that's cool.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for calling in.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right. Have a good one, Nixie.
You too.
Bye. I get genuinely excited when people are not only open to testing, but when they're willing to say they're open to the possibility that there could be a naturalistic explanation, because some people just close themselves off and they become so convinced that it is the supernatural that they're unwilling to, even investigate the possibility that there could be, as you said, Jim, some mundane explanation for what's going on.
Right. And people, when they think air currents, are thinking big currents moving through a room, and it doesn't have to be a room-wide current or a current necessarily coming out of a register or an AC vent. You'd have just a slight little bit of movement with the wind where the room is accelerating that movement in one particular direction and catches the can. And things like that. So you see acceleration zones and sailing and things like that off of the wind. As the land heats up and cools down, it creates wind as well. And so there are a number of ways to create breezes and wind movement that don't necessarily require AC to be on or a fan to be on. It could just be a light bit of air movement in one part of the room that gets accelerated and pushes something. So there's a number of ways to, so putting like little tufts of yarn on the table that are attached in one place so you can see the wind current, especially if they're really lightweight, are some really good ways to do it. To check, but they have to be really lightweight because you may not be looking for a lot. Making sure that the surface is clean. Those kinds of things can all be part of figuring that out.